Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to walk through the Daniel Morcombe case chronologically. It's a very difficult story, starting from the first hours Daniel went missing right up to the present day.
And we need to advise you up front. Some of the details we'll discuss are disturbing. We'll take our time, allow for some moments to process this information.
Okay, so let's begin. It was Sunday, December 7th, 2003. 13-year-old Daniel Morcombe was at home in Queensland with his family.
That morning, his parents, Bruce and Denise, they had a quick chat with Daniel and his brothers. It was about maybe going to Brisbane for a work function.
Yeah, but the boys, they wanted to stay home. Just a seemingly normal family discussion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But one that would soon be, well, overshadowed by just unimaginable tragedy.
So sometime after 1 o'clock that afternoon, Daniel left the house.
His plan was to walk. It's about 1.3 kilometers to the Nambour Connection Road.
Right. To catch a sun bus, he was heading to the Sunshine Plaza shopping center.
And according to his dad's testimony later, Daniel had done this trip before, at least 15 times.
So it was a familiar journey for him, not something out of the ordinary.
No, not at all. And we know what he was last seen wearing. Navy blue long shorts, a red Billabong t-shirt, and Globe shoes.
He also had his wallet. It had about $100 cash, a bank key card, student card, video store card, a phone card.
These details, they become so important. I would say it's the last known image of him, just a young boy on an ordinary Sunday.
He walked to the Nambour Connection Road and he waited under the Keel Mountain Road overpass.
Now, this spot, it wasn't an official bus stop.
No, but apparently Daniel and his brothers had caught buses from there before. The Christian Outreach Center was right next to the overpass then.
Right. And that overpass, it became such a central point in the search that followed.
The first sun bus that would have gone past that spot arrived around 2:15.
The driver, Mr. Edmonds, he saw Daniel. Saw him on the side of the road under the overpass.
And he also saw someone else.
Yes. Another male person seated against the wall, sort of at the back of the overpass area. So this first sighting confirms Daniel was there, waiting like he planned.
And a passenger on that same bus, they also saw Daniel, standing near the road edge, looking towards the bus, waving one hand.
Like he was trying to signal it to stop.
Yeah. Such a simple thing, isn't it? A kid trying to catch a bus. It just highlights how normal everything seemed right before it all changed.
Another passenger saw Daniel near the road, and also an unidentified male leaning against the bank nearby.
How was he leaning?
One leg bent, just leaning on the embankment, and yet another passenger saw Daniel move down from the embankment towards the road as the bus got closer.
Trying to hail it.
Exactly. And they also saw a male person on the embankment behind Daniel.
So multiple people are seeing Daniel and this other male figure nearby.
That's right. 2 more passengers saw Daniel by the road and a male leaning against the embankment. The general agreement from all these witnesses was clear.
Daniel tried to flag down that first bus.
It's just heartbreaking, isn't it? Him trying to get on with his day, totally unaware of the danger.
What really strikes you is how consistent those accounts are, that he was actively trying to get on that bus.
Then a second sun bus passed the overpass. It was maybe 10 to 15 minutes later, possibly even sooner.
Now on that bus.
No passengers reported seeing Daniel or the male figure. Nobody.
So that window, that 10, maybe 15 minutes.
That's the critical time frame. It raises that chilling question. What happened in that incredibly short interval?
And the driver of that first bus, Edmonds, he didn't stop for Daniel.
No. He'd been instructed to drive express to the plaza. Didn't stop, even though it probably would have only taken, 30 seconds?
Just 30 seconds. Wow. When he got back to the depot, did he mention it?
He did. He asked another driver, Norman. Norman had driven a replacement bus because the first one broke down.
Okay.
He asked Norman if he'd picked up the boy under the bridge.
And had he?
Norman said he'd heard a radio call about collecting a chap underneath the bridge, but when he got there, no one.
Even though the breakdown spot was less than a kilometer away from the overpass.
Exactly. Norman said he slowed the replacer bus right down, 30 to 40 kilometers per hour, looking near the overpass, saw nothing. Nobody there.
It just shows how quickly things must have happened, vanished in minutes.
Absolutely. And then there were other witnesses, just people driving past between 1 and 2:40 that afternoon.
What did they report?
A real mix of sightings. One saw a boy in a red T-shirt and black shorts who looked strained, and a man with a ponytail and, quote, evil-looking eyes leaning on a blue car, watching him.
Evil-looking eyes. That's disturbing.
Very. Another witness mentioned a blue Datsun Bluebird, a male in fawn pants and a creamy shirt standing near it, a boy in front of him, and another thin male with short hair at the back.
So different descriptions, different vehicles.
Yes. It underscores how hard it was for investigators to piece together a clear picture early on.
Were there other sightings?
A few more. A car parked near the overpass, man and a boy in front, another man behind, then another sighting. Young boy, red t-shirt, baggy shorts, head bowed, standing near the road edge.
Head bowed.
And a man slightly to his right, but this witness felt they didn't seem connected. Another saw a blue car parked outside a dealership nearby, but no one near it.
It's just a lot of fragmented information. Very confusing.
Definitely. Illustrates the challenge right from the start.
Meanwhile, Daniel's parents, Bruce and Denise, they got home from their Christmas function at about 4 o'clock.
And Denise drove down to the bus stop around 4:30 to meet Daniel. The Sun bus ran hourly on Sundays.
But he wasn't on it.
No. So Bruce drove back down at 5:30. They thought the last bus left the plaza at 5.
Still no Daniel.
No. So then they drove to Sunshine Plaza themselves. Confirmed the last bus actually left at 5:05.
They couldn't find him anywhere.
Couldn't find him. They followed the bus route back home, tried calling Sunbus, but couldn't get through. Eventually, they flagged down a bus driver on the road.
What did the driver say?
Said there was no one at the depot who could confirm schedules or anything at that time.
You can just feel the panic rising for them.
Unimaginable.
Oh.
By first light the next day, Monday, December 8th, Bruce and Denise were out searching themselves.
Where do they look?
They went back to the Keel Mountain Road overpass, back to Sunshine Plaza. They walked the route Daniel would have taken.
Doing everything they could.
Everything. Then at 8 a.m., after dropping their other son at work, they went to the Palm Woods police station.
And reported Daniel missing.
Yes, to Sergeant Davison. He took a detailed account of Daniel's movements, what he was wearing.
But Mr. Morcombe later said he was frustrated they had to wait until 8 a.m. to make that formal report.
He did express that frustration. Those initial hours are so critical in any missing persons case, especially a child. That delay, it became a point of discussion later.
So the official police investigation gears up.
Right. A major incident room was set up at the Maroochydore police station on December 9th.
And the scale of this investigation was huge, wasn't it?
Immense. Over 22,000 job logs were created, each one representing a piece of info or evidence.
22,000.
The final police report, with all the attachments, ended up being over 10,000 pages long.
Wow.
Over 100 police officers involved, interviewing more than 10,000 people. It shows just how seriously this was taken.
Were there questions early on about how the case was handled initially?
There were internal reviews. They looked at whether Daniel should have been listed as missing sooner on the Sunday evening, given how responsible he was known to be, and the info Mr. Morcombe gave police.
What was the procedure back then?
In 2003, there was a 3-stage risk assessment for missing persons reports. That procedure changed later, in 2010.
How did it change?
It became mandatory to report missing persons under 18 or other vulnerable people immediately. It removed officer discretion if parents were expressing serious concern for a child's safety.
A direct result of cases like Daniel's, presumably.
Likely influenced by them, yes. They also introduced Q-Lite mobile devices for officers, with an app to create and publish missing person reports much faster.
Sergeant Tracy Barnes got involved early on December 8th. What was her role?
She worked as a reader in the major incident room, reviewing those thousands of job logs. She noted they prepared about 20 come-fit sketches.
Based on descriptions of the man seen at the overpass.
Exactly. But the descriptions were so inconsistent.
So they didn't release them?
Not publicly, not for 12 months. They decided the inconsistencies were too great. Instead, they focused on descriptions from the bus passengers who had the earliest, most detailed memories.
Even though those descriptions also varied.
Yes. They also used photo boards of persons of interest, but got no positive eyewitness IDs.
So no clear suspect identified early on through eyewitnesses?
No, unfortunately not.
What about CCTV? That's often crucial.
They reviewed a massive amount, 200 hours of footage just from service stations between Tewantin and Capulture.
Looking for what?
Sightings of Daniel, or blue, square-shaped vehicles, based on some witness accounts. They also secured footage from Nambour Railway Station and the Gateway Bridge.
A huge task.
And a week after Daniel disappeared, December 14th, they filmed all vehicles entering and leaving the Christian Outreach Center, right next to the overpass.
Did anything come of that?
A white Mitsubishi Pajero was filmed. Queensland plates 552 GLT, registered to a Brett Cowan.
Brett Cowan. Was he investigated them?
Checks were done at the time regarding blue vehicles seen there that day, but nothing further came from it immediately regarding Cowan or his white Pajero. It was just one vehicle among many recorded.
So Cowan's name and vehicle were noted relatively early, but he didn't become a prime suspect right away.
Not immediately, no. Assistant Commissioner Condon later stated that while initial checks happened in 2003, more focused inquiries into Mr. Cowan really started after correspondence came from the family court in May 2006.
2006. That's nearly 3 years later.
Yes. After that, the Homicide Investigation Unit took over, managing that specific aspect, the inquiries into Cowan.
What happened between 2003 and 2006?
The investigation continued broadly. Condon mentioned ongoing reviews of job logs and persons of interest over the years. By 2011, this led to a much more focused list of about 500 individuals needing closer scrutiny.
So a process of elimination over many years.
Exactly. Reviews happened in 2004, then desktop reviews in late 2010, early 2011 helped narrow that focus significantly. It shows the persistence involved.
Was Cowan spoken to by police early on, before 2006?
Yes. Significantly, on December 22, 2003, just 2 weeks after Daniel vanished, officers from Task Force Argos spoke to Brett Cowan.
And what did he say?
He volunteered information about his movements that day, said he'd driven along the Namber Connection Road, past the overpass, twice that afternoon.
So he placed himself right there at the location very early on.
He did, which, in hindsight, is incredibly chilling.
Were there concerns within the police force about him earlier?
There were. Despite that early contact, and apparently some investigators raising internal concerns that Cowan should be a main suspect. Well, a report detailing those concerns was allegedly either not formally lodged or couldn't be found later.
Not lodged or lost.
Efforts were made to locate it, including by the Crime and Corruption Commission, but without success. It raises serious questions about that part of the process.
So years pass, the investigation continues, reviews happen. What was the actual breakthrough?
The crucial breakthrough, the moment everything changed, came on August 9th, 2011.
What happened then?
Brett Cowan made an admission. He confessed to an undercover police operative in Perth.
He confessed.
Yes. Admitted that he had abducted and killed Daniel Morcombe. After almost 8 years of searching, hoping, speculating, this was the devastating truth.
And was this confession corroborated?
It was. Tragically, it led to the discovery of Daniel's remains, his bones and clothing, in bushland near Birawa later that same year, 2011.
Oh gosh, after all that time.
Assistant Commissioner Condon stated that before Cowan's confession, there was no direct evidence linking him to the abduction and murder. The confession was the key.
Finding Daniel's remains, it must have brought some form of closure, however painful.
Some measure, yes, but unimaginable pain for his family, obviously.
Brett Peter Cowan was then arrested and charged.
Correct. He was ultimately convicted. In May 2014, he was sentenced to life imprisonment.
With a minimum non-parole period.
Yes, a minimum of 20 years.
Did he appeal?
He did. He appealed against both the conviction and the sentence, but his appeals were unsuccessful.
So he remains in prison?
Yes. The judge specifically noted that the 20-year non-parole period meant Cowan couldn't appeal on the grounds of it being unusually harsh, which effectively means imprisonment for life, even if not formally sentenced as life without parole, which itself might have faced appeal challenges under human rights charters.
A complex legal outcome.
Very.
What did the coronial inquest find that happened after the conviction?
The findings were stark. The coroner concluded that Daniel was likely killed within just 1 hour of his abduction.
Within an hour. So long before his parents even reported him missing.
Tragically, yes, well before.
Did the coroner comment on the police response?
The coroner stated that the Queensland Police Service's response, including that initial delay in formal reporting, did not contribute to Daniel's death.
Why not?
Because Daniel was likely already deceased by the time police were formally involved. The coroner placed the sole responsibility for Daniel's death on Brett Cowan.
And the coroner also acknowledged the Morcombes.
Absolutely. Acknowledged the incredible resilience of Bruce and Denise Morcombe. Their strength, their refusal to give up, was highlighted as a significant factor in eventually bringing Cowan to justice.
And their work since then. The Daniel Morcombe Foundation.
Yes, established to try and prevent similar tragedies. It's an incredible legacy, born from unimaginable loss.
What does the foundation focus on?
Primarily educating children about personal safety. They have resources like the Keeping Kids Safe resources and the Daniel Morcombe Child Safety Curriculum.
What do these cover?
Things like personal safety, online safety, consent. Really important topics. These resources are available to schools across Queensland.
Trying to empower kids.
Exactly. And they run awareness events, too. Day for Daniel is probably the best known.
Yes, where everyone wears red.
That's the one. And events like Dance for Daniel raise funds. The one in March 2023 raised, I think, $120,000.
It shows huge community support continues.
It really does. The foundation also directly supports young victims of crime through a dedicated program.
How does that work?
They fund access to various services for young crime victims. In the last reported year, they approved 86 applications, supporting over 100 young people, offering real, tangible help.
That's vital work. Did Daniel's case lead to legal changes beyond the missing persons procedures?
It prompted a lot of discussion and some changes. The inquest made recommendations about investigations and also about the timely return of victims' remains to families.
The return of remains.
Yes, that was a specific issue raised. The Queensland government amended the criminal code to try and ensure a deceased person's body isn't held unnecessarily long for legal processes while still balancing the accused's right to a fair trial, trying to reduce further suffering for grieving families.
And what about offender reporting? There was talk of a public register, sometimes called Daniel's Law.
That's right. The Morcombe family and the Foundation have advocated for a publicly accessible sex offenders website since 2014.
Has that happened?
It's still a subject of ongoing discussion. Legislation was amended in 2022 regarding offender reporting and prohibition orders, but a full public register, well, it involves balancing community views, expert opinions, potential impacts on offender rehabilitation, and reoffending risks. It's complex.
So no public register yet, but other changes to reporting.
Yes. Queensland Parliament has looked at amendments to strengthen offender reporting laws. Things like establishing a child protection register, requiring offenders to provide and update personal details, report travel plans.
The aim being
To help prevent reoffending and protect children. The E-Safety Commissioner also supported parts of these amendments, dealing with offenders using anonymizing software or encrypted communications.
So the legal and procedural landscape continues to evolve, partly in response to this case.
Definitely. This case had such a profound impact. It really underscored the importance of community vigilance, effective police strategies, and, crucially, ongoing child safety education.
The work the Daniel Morcombe Foundation does remains so important.
Absolutely vital. We really encourage you to learn more about the foundation and the resources they offer.
Thank you for joining us today for this very difficult but important exploration of the Daniel Morcombe case.
It's a story that needs to be remembered for Daniel and for the safety of all children.
If you found this discussion valuable, please do consider subscribing and perhaps leave a comment below to share your thoughts.